So Livio Vacchini, born in 1933 and died in 2007, so 15 years ago. Let's read a little bit about him. But before we look at a few pictures with him, Livio Vacchini, ideology and philosophy. Of course, any good architect has his or her own philosophy. It's not, you cannot just build without, although, as Wolf Prick said, when I asked him what do you recommend young architects or architects in general or students, he said, don't think. But, not thinking could mean thinking in a different way. Anyway, this is Livio Vacchini, a Swiss architect from Ticino. And so he was born on February 27th, and that's why we talk about him today. Livio Vacchini was a Swiss architect from Ticino. He was born in Locarno from 1953 to 1958. He studied architecture at Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. After a stay in Stockholm and Paris from 1959 to 1961, he established his own architecture studio in Locarno called Studio Vacchini, Architetti. Working closely with Luigi, Snozzi and Silvia Gmür, he worked with other architects. I have to say that this presentation that I made rather quickly is not, as some parts which are chronological and some parts which are not. I began with some works, later works, and then I changed my mind. I wasn't always at ease with creating this PowerPoint presentation, because the architect himself and his work are a little bit difficult for me, and I will try to explain why. The works of Livio Vacchini feature an extreme coherence of theme and practice. Maybe an answer to the question that I just formulated is right here, an extreme coherence. I'm a little bit uneasy with anything that is extremely coherent, because I think life has, as Boileau said, you need l'esprit de géométrie and l'esprit de finesse. And l'esprit de géométrie, the spirit of geometry, okay, could be correlated with coherence, with a system. But then you have the spirit of fineness, of grace, the grace which problematizes this extreme coherence. I have a problem with this extreme coherence, but we'll look at the buildings and then we can talk if indeed they are so extremely coherent. Maybe they are, but this is another way to put to say that they are rationalistic and rather rigid, and in my opinion they are. Each project is conceived ideally as the continuation of the lines of research explored by more modern architects of the classical tradition, such as Auguste Perret, Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, and Louis Kahn. An extreme reduction of structural elements is present in all his designs. Well, I think neither Perret nor van der Rohe nor Louis Kahn really reduce structural elements to an extreme. I don't think so. The most important values of this text is from Wikipedia. The most important values of his works lie precisely in the intentional timelessness, indifferent to novelty, interested only in respecting an inner coherence, detached, far from the chatter and gossip of the world of architecture of our time. I'm not so sure about this, nor am I sure that it is really timeless architecture. I personally don't think it is. But this was the opinion of the one who wrote this text in Wikipedia. Livio Vacchini designed houses, office buildings, schools, and community facilities in Switzerland and France. His major works are the School of Montagnola near Locarno, his own house in Costa, Switzerland, and the School of Architecture of Snozzi. And now we are going to see some of his works. Casa I don't know very well how to pronounce, Oldune, Locarno, Ticino, 1961, 1962. From that time, I have mainly pictures in black and white. It's, you know, it's an architecture which is acceptable, but not highly surprising. I actually like more his earliest works than his later works. And I will try to say why. Administrative building in Fabrizia, 1964, 1965. Here he worked with Luigi Snozzi. The building is located in the center of this place, next to the well-known Piazza del Sole. It is a 6 floors administrative building conceived as a residential courtyard on multiple levels, which receives light through the transparent roof. The ground floor consists of a free space fixed by a boundary wall which contains the flights of stairs leading to the basement and the 4th floor. The central entrance hall is fully glazed. This text is from his own website, and if you are interested to study him further, you can do so on his website. The 4 upper levels consist of large, I'm not sure I did well by extracting this descriptive text, which I don't quite like to read, but I'll read for a while. A gallery runs around the inner courtyard, the core services and stairway. Anyway, the construction is steel with a view, structures entirely painted in blue. This doesn't quite make sense, this phrase. Hanging curtains protect the glass facades. Internal dividers consist of prefabricated aluminum elements. And this is the building. You know, I should have shown only the building without the text. Yeah, it's I would say a good building in that in this using this particular architectonic language. But you know, there are so many buildings of this sort in the world that you know, but I still like the architecture of mid 20th century. There is quality there often, although it is an architecture of reason rather than you know, emotion. But much of it is good, and he was influenced by Scandinavia. He was influenced by Arne Jacobsen, a very good and excellent international style architect, Danish architect. Now, low-cost housing from 1964-1965, also in Locarno. I'm not going to read this, sorry. I like this building. It's low cost, meaning, you know, social housing. Here it says at the bottom that the original facade was influenced by the Scandinavian experience of Livio Vacchini, Jacobsen, meaning Arne Jacobsen in particular, wooden frames painted black, full height, upon which were inserted windows and Eternit facing panels. The strong rational design allowed a large number of fixed equipments normally not provided by the standard of social housing. And yes, I actually like this building. I'm not so sure about the base, which is rather misanthropic because it's opaque. Usually buildings at the, you know, the level of the ground open up towards society, towards, but this being in nature, I guess, I don't know. I'm not very sure, but what is above, I think is well done. And there is a certain degree of freedom because of this, you know, playfulness of this white or whitish things that block the, you know, the typical windows. Also, the windows are interesting because they are vertical and narrow. And it's a building which I think does have qualities. Now the pavilion, the neuropsychiatric county hospital pavilion from 1967. I almost said, why not? It's good. And in my opinion, again, his early works, those done in the 60s, they seem to me a little better than his later works. But we are going to see some of those later works. Another housing and public center also from the 60s with the same architect, Luigi Snozzi. Yeah, you can find these texts both in Italian and English on his website. Here it is. Again, if you didn't know, if we didn't know this was done by Livio Vacchini, we would have liked it to an extent, but not an alarmingly high extent, because the building, I mean, there are many good buildings in the world, and this is not particularly, unique. Without being an expert in Livio Vacchini, I would say that he was influenced strongly by certain architects, and I'm going to show some examples a little later on, where the influence, not to use a different word, is quite noticeable. Arne Jacobsen was mentioned before, but we'll see something else, almost in bothering ways. He was a good architect, Livio Vacchini. He was a good architect, but I will express some doubts about him a little bit later on. The Vacchini house, I think he was rather well-to-do, because he built this house for himself. It's here. What I like about it is that the presence of the plants. I mean, I don't know if that's how he conceived it when he built it, or it became like this, but it's I have a good feeling about this building, and it's a skeleton, a structure reduced to essentials, and then lots of plants and lots of glass. But this is almost a signature element for him: the large panels of glass, which do not open conventionally. Some of them slide. The building is, still influenced here, I would say, of the international style. It's good. I like this building, but with this incredible landscape behind and around, the building almost doesn't matter how it is. No, it's not quite like this. Anyway. But this is him here. You see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 panels, all identical. I don't know. It's Lido, 1980, 1986, Ascona, Ticino. Now here, I have to confess, I was bothered by the reference, maybe unacknowledged, to a hospital that Louis Khan built in Dhaka in Bangladesh, and I'm going to see the work. I don't know if we can use harsh words like plagiarizing, but it's just, for me, it's bothering, the similarity between what he did and what Khan did with, I don't know, when was this built? 1980, 1986. So what Khan did was at least, around 20 years earlier or so. Anyway, so this is the building. What is it? A Lido? I don't know exactly what it is. But really, to me, it's embarrassing. Or maybe I'm excessive in my criticism, but I hope I'm not. No, actually, I hope I am. I hope I'm wrong, because and it's not the only example. I'm going to show you something else. So this is what Livio Vacchini did, and we will look now at the hospital of Louis Khan in Dhaka in Bangladesh. Now, of course, there are differences, but when you look at this and you look at this, you know, it's hard for me to believe that Livio Vacchini was unaware of the work by Louis Kahn. Because even here, this main elevation of the hospital by Louis Kahn, and when I look at this, you know, it's, in my opinion, there is a certain resemblance, isn't there? Although the scale is different, the heroics of Louis Kahn are absent, but and it's not the only example. I'll show you another building where he became dangerously close to a previous building built by an important Spanish architect. Anyway, Alfredo House, 1984-1986 in Zurich, with another architect, Mario Piatti. I'm not going to read this. This is also bothering, but maybe I should read a little bit. The Alfredo House is a compact square building which does not reveal, well, should be either its function or its internal distribution. The volume abstractness allows the combining of two functional aspects, the working and the living. Now, you tell me, is this a house? I mean, you know, its opacity, its blankness reminds me of atomic building or nuclear building in Israel built by none other than Philip Johnson. But this also makes me think of some North American buildings, but not for houses, for God's sake. For, you know, corporations or even museums, no one would think that this is a house. Look at this, you know, it's totally, it's shut off from the outside, and is not inviting in any way. It's like a big warehouse or you know, some, I don't know what is the conception here, but I have a different conception about what a house is. Even if you work in it, you know, where are the windows? Is the courtyard? I hope it is, or I don't know, but it's a very uninviting building. And to call it a house or casa is a little bit, to me, provocative. Casa Vacchini, Costa, another Vacchini, but I don't know if he built it for himself again in 1991. I don't know why I place these texts, because I don't like to read them. It interrupts the fluidity of the discourse. Okay, the discourse might not be very rigorous, but I prefer it to be fluid than interrupted by so much rigor. Let's look at the building again. Is this a house? I'm very sorry, but even for a misanthropic being, this is too much. It's really too much, you know. I mean, it doesn't look like this on all sides, but one of the sides is like this. And it's just, to say that it is uninviting is to be mellow. There is a door. Now, remember the doors that the non-architect Rudolf Steiner did. Each door was crafted as an event in the architecture of the building, because the threshold between the outside and the inside happened there, and it was eventful. It was designed in a certain way. Look here, there is just a door handle and this canopy. Otherwise, the building is hermetically, you know, saying, don't come in. I don't like this architecture. I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe I'm limited. Maybe I have problems, which is possible. But I cannot accept a house looking like this. And even on the side, what's so great, really? I mean, this could have been any kind of other building, not a house. And the interior, yes, it's a large space, and maybe Jean Nouvel was right. A nice apartment or a nice house is a large. Well, he talked about apartments. A nice apartment is a large apartment. Yes, there is a plenty of space here, but I don't know. I don't know. Is this a house to live in or is a house to look at? I find it rather arrogant, actually, in the vicinity of this building or this building. What does it try to say, with its cubistic misanthropy? I like more what I see here, to be honest with you. Yes. And even this building, I like it more. A synagogue, a project was not built. And I have to tell you, and maybe I'm wrong, and I apologize if I was wrong, but when I saw the project, I only have two images of this project. I thought, is this a fascist or a Nazi synagogue? I know it's unacceptably oxymoronic, but then very well that Putin accused he entered Ukraine in order to denazify Ukraine, but the president of Ukraine is Jewish. So since when Jews are Nazis? Well, since when a synagogue looks like this? uh, I mean, I see David's star, yes, but on that background, the way the building was conceived, I thought of yes, sorry, Livio Vacchino, I thought of a fascist synagogue, and look at it here too. It's possible Hitler would have loved it. Yes, he hated the Jews, but he might have loved this so-called synagogue. Now, was it a sarcastic project by Livio Vacchini? I don't know. But it's something about this building that bothers me. Anyway, it was not built. Another house from 2001, 2005. We remember he died in 2007. Here he worked with another architect, Marco Azzola. Yes, a spectacular landscape, probably, a rich house. You remember the concrete wall, the concrete architecture of Rudolf Steiner, organic and all the rest. And here is just, rationalism. And I don't know. I mean, he uses these huge pieces of glass, but here they are facing rock, and so close to it. And so towards what are you opening these huge pieces of glass? And of course, he also didn't think at all about the losses of energy, but okay, Switzerland has money, so why not spend on the electrical bills or some other bills? But it's something here that the rhetorics of this excessive transparency not justified. Just a few meters away from this, massive obstruction of nature, so to speak. It's something I don't know. I wouldn't do. Here is something else. Yes, of course. You can open this sliding door completely and then jump from it in a suicidal manner and disappear from the wall before Putin is shooting at us with his nuclear arsenal. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's another house with very comfortable beds, I'm sure. And you stare through this giant glass at the beauty of the outside, but I'm not impressed. And here you stare, I don't know, it's something here that doesn't seem to work, in my opinion. Anyway. And since I am a functionalist, I would never do something like this, where you work at the kitchen counter with your back towards natural light. You might not be able to clean up the dishes very well, since the shadow of your being is thrown on the plates. An administrative and commercial building from 2000 to 2003. This received some awards. You see them at the bottom. I took this information from his website. Now, this building frightens me, I confess. And I used one image, one picture taken from this building in the invitational material I sent out. To me, this building is almost the paradigmatic, the perfect prison. The grid is for all to see, but look at it. It's actually, it's beyond me why people would love such a thing. It's simplistic. Its system sickens me. It does. Yes, I am an adversary of excessive controlling forces, and that's what I see here. Control. And even inside is all these squares, on the ceiling, on the walls, this grid and grid again. Aren't we tired of these grids? Look at here, look at this. You exit from a prison and you enter into a prison. You expect almost this to be some kind of a diabolical guillotine that falls on you when you try to cross, from the inside towards the outside, or vice versa. It's truly an architecture that makes me stay away from. And even this staircase here, yes, it's an interesting picture, but look at the shadow of the prison-like facade. And then this stair, where does it go? Into a bunker, into some kind of a. It's not a hospitable. It's not friendly, this building, in my opinion, at all. I used to think that Italians, and he was an Italian from Switzerland, are friendly natures, but I see here some unfriendliness, in my opinion. It's not a warm architecture and it's not friendly. That's how I perceive it. Subjectively, I confess, but now the House of Three Women, I actually like its name, but I took this from a different source, not from his website. I don't know if on his website it's also called House of Three Women. The project presented a single building divided into three separate houses, united by a large terrace. The construction measures 60 meters long and 10 meters wide. Each house has 2 levels. Each housing unit consists of a closed part and an open one, the portico. The surface of each house is 60 square meters. Same for the portico. It's not a big surface, but this, is probably just the imprint, the fingerprint on the floor. Well, I'm beginning to forget English. It's not fingerprint, you understand, the trace of the building on the ground. They are living dual height, close towards the lake. The height of each house is 6 meters. On the ground floor are the kitchen and the living room, while upstairs, yes, so it's actually 120 meters because it has 2 floors. While upstairs there are the bedroom, bathroom, and office. The elevation of structures, floors, and ceilings are in concrete, plaster, and rear metal and glass for windows. Here they are. It's difficult for me to avoid the word rigid. It's rigid. I'm not against regularity necessarily, but I don't see here so much grace. I see more desire to control through willfulness. And there are strange things. Like, look here, is this heavy wall of concrete, and here is supported apparently by nothing. It's just glass. I mean, there is here the column, but here, I don't know, it's something, unless I don't see because of the reflections, but even if it is some hidden, there is some hidden column here, it's rather disturbing what's going on here. This heavy thing sitting on top of a large piece of glass and nothing else underneath. You know, I imagine there are some reflective, you know, delusions or illusions here, visual incongruences, because I don't see the bottom of this, you know, heavy piece of wall. It's all in all, to me, it's something problematic here. Maybe some people will think that exactly this makes this architect extremely interesting and enticing. I don't know. I mean, at the beginning of the presentation, we read the names of Perret, Louis Kahn, and Miss van der Rohe. In my opinion, they were far superior to Livio. And we are going to see another building where the inspiration is almost literally, you know, applied to his own building. Plus, so much glass, you know, I'm sick of this glass, you know, glass, and glass again. This could have been a museum very well. It's a house for 3 women. And I look even at the landscaping, you know, it's so, you know, all these parallels and all this, it's very, I don't know. I miss Rudolf Steiner with his organic lines. Okay, it's my subjectivity, I agree. This expensive glass, because it is expensive glass, and that there are no windows that open. It's actually very opaque in essence, although there is transparency because it's glass. But in spirit, I think it's very opaque, more opaque than a small little so-called traditional window. Air conditioning, of course, air conditioning. You need air conditioning here. Probably here there are some sliding windows, but the ideology of such large pieces of glass make me disappointed, actually, because this is not really artistry. It's just, you know, you have a slab and you have another slab, and then you, in between them, you put glass. The larger, the better. Another residence from Uralto Ticino. I'm not going to read, plus is in Italian. Now here, I am very sorry for the admirers of Livio Vacchini, but this sort of thing, and you are going to understand it because I'll show an elevation of the front of the building, is very, to say that is disappointing is to say very little. If there is a sign of life here, is this piece of furniture, which he didn't create, I imagine, with the word Brooklyn, and this one here. But the building, the architecture itself is, you know, rationalism, dry as it is. But look at this elevation. Here you have this cantilever part. Now this one is not much bigger than this one. He placed these ridiculous columns, which, you know, I think any engineer would question their efficiency for structural purposes. It's almost making fun of statics and making fun of what a column is supposed to be. What is this? Because okay, Antoni Gaudi, and not only him, used you know, inclined columns, but not like this. You know, when this is a rationalist, Livio Vacchini is a rationalist, and when he tries to mimic freedom, he does such ridiculous things. I really find this extremely problematic. You know, if here he didn't need any column, here with a little bit of more armature, he would not have needed it either. And so I don't know, maybe I'm in a bad mood, but I don't think that's it. From 2010, but let's remember he died in 2007. So this building was finalized after his death. But it's actually was not finalized. Sorry, he did a similar one, and we are going to see it. This is just a project that was done, and I don't even know why it's shown on his website. I guess his firm, his office continues to work, continue to work, and they did this work, but he was dead in 2000. He died in 2007. Here in the project, the building, we'll see, he built a building that is not very different from what we see here. Fortunately, we have these people, you know, I almost felt like saying fooling around on bicycles that bring some life into the thing. Otherwise, the building is crushingly almost anti-life. It's just a project, so let's forgive it and forget it for being just a project. Now, a gymnasium from 2005, 2010, I'm not going to read, sorry. You see, he built this, very similar to this in a way, but taller. Here there are some antecedents, some precedents in Japan, and not only in Japan. I think Livio Vacchini loved to look through magazines and find some inspiration. I'm not impressed really by this building either. It's rather aggressive in its monotonous repetition. And the interior, what can we say? Again, huge pieces of glass. That ventilation obviously is done artificially. Now, I show you a building in Japan at Takasaki Music Center by Anthony Raymond. You know, it has something of the building he designed, which is here. You look at this, and you look at Anthony Raymond in Japan, done with 50 years earlier, if not more. And now we see, I don't know what this is. Yeah, this was built between, I think he worked here because in 2005 he was alive. He died in 2007. And here is actually very, you know, amusing and sad at the same time, the resemblance, not just with the building by Louis Kahn, the Yale Art Gallery, but also a building in Spain. I am very strongly inclined to think that he inspired himself explicitly Although I don't know if he recognized it or if he would have recognized it, but you'll understand quickly. So look at this, and then look at the Sanctuary of Aranzazu from 1950s by Francisco Javier Sáenz de Oiza, an excellent Spanish architect. You know, I mean, maybe it's just a coincidence, but I doubt it. You know, this is what Livio Vacchini did, and this is what De Oiza did 50 years earlier. I let the specialists decide, but it just came to my mind when I saw what he did. And I remember the building by the Oiza because I presented his work as well. And not just him, also Luis Kahn. Unfortunately, in the rush to finalize to an extent the presentation, Luis Kahn has horizontally what both Oiza and Livio Vacchini did vertically. Luis Kahn has at the Yale Art Gallery a ceiling with these pyramids at the top. I saw a picture in the past, but I couldn't find it today, which looked very similar to this, except that was on a horizontal plane. Because here you see Kahn looking from the inside of the building towards the ceiling. But the top, meaning what you see from above, but I couldn't find that picture now, is very, very similar to what you see on the vertical wall of both the Oiza and Livio Vacchini. I usually don't, I'm not interested in such correspondences or similarities, but in this case, they seem to me too striking to actually ignore them. Anyway, so this was what you see here is the Luis Kahn Yale Art Gallery roof, and back to the building by Livio Vacchini. It's a factory, I think, or something. So I don't know. I mean, yes, it could be like this, but apartment house, 2005, 2009. I'm not reading, I'm sorry. Again, another building that we might have passed by without stopping, you know, with huge pieces of glass, the demagogy of glass being, you know, crushingly authoritative, or there is no such word. I'm obviously tired and I don't remember basic English words. It's okay in a way, but I prefer the tree on the right, always. And Salva, a nuova sede ambulanza, is a place for ambulances, and of course the word Salva is for all to understand. Now, what's so great about this building? I personally don't see anything great. It's just a prism, a box, and cars, the ambulances go in. But is this great architecture? And why shouldn't it be? I mean, you know, we saw the boiler room by Rudolf Steiner, which is architecture. Is this architecture? I'm not very convinced. I mean, the most architectural thing about this are these arrows here painted on the concrete surface. Otherwise, it's a garage that is very banal, in my opinion. I even, you know, on the other side, the building is prose. It's not poetry. If there is any poetry here, besides the mentioned, the aforementioned arrows, is the yellowish vehicle here, which happened to be a Mercedes. But I like the color, because otherwise My God, my God. Yes, but it's a garage in a way, so you could say, why should it be beautiful? But then why shouldn't it? And this is a cemetery. You'll see that a cemetery is not very different from a garage for ambulances in a way. It's still the same author. Although I see here 2013, 2014, so I'm not sure. Did he do the project before he died, or was it done by his collaborators after he died? It's here, what he did. It's I like more what was without an architect. Um, it's here, the house of the dead, but I don't see too much spirituality or sorrow or compassion or melancholia. It's just, concrete. And look at the top, what are these things, that you open to? It's something, in my opinion, depressing here. Anyway, secondary school, 2004, 2008. I'm not reading the text. This facade is, interesting in a way, in opposition to the mountain behind. But the long elevation, we are going to see the side elevation is, what would move us as architecture here really. I almost felt like quoting from Hannah Arendt, the banality of evil, or to put it the other way, the evil of banality. Yes, his seen from here is maybe not so bad, but still, it's I prefer the mountains and the shadow of this tree here to this building. I mean, this building is throwing a shadow on the earth that is not really adding anything to the beauty of the world. I would say it subtracts from it. I'm nostalgic, to be honest, towards Rudolf Steiner. And I think that's it. So let's wish him happy birthday. And let's hope I was not too subjective.